Hey class, welcome to week 3. I'm going to go over just the quick overview of what we'll be doing this week, and then I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the chapters that you'll be reading 4 and 5 and setting the stage for what you're going to learn about this week and just kind of giving you some context. All right, so let's take a look. I just told you we'll be doing chapters 4 and 5 this week, which is mostly focusing on sources and quotes, and I will talk about that in just a minute. You with this now you have the two new chapters, right? So you're going to have to complete a new exercise that relates to what you're learning this week. You also have a quiz for chapters 4 and 5. So the information that you're going to be reading about this week, you'll have that quiz too, just like you did last week. This is something new. You're going to be reviewing the feedback I gave you from your prior exercise. So you should have feedback. If you do not have feedback yet by the time you're watching this video, by the end of the week, you definitely will. I think every student will have feedback by the time you're even watching this video. So you're going to take a look at the feedback that I gave you on the last exercise. Part of this class is because it's not a traditional, you're in the classroom, I'm doing a lecture with you. The way that I'm transferring the information, transferring the knowledge, what you need to know, is a mix of the book, right? What you're learning in the book, and then you executing on those lessons and me giving you feedback. And I really see that being my main function, that being my main role here, is that you're going to be doing the most learning from me from the feedback that I give you that's tailored to each one of your individual assignments. So you'll be able to go to your assignment, you're going to see the feedback that I give you, and some of it will be general feedback that I'll give in videos or that I might just give across, in a written document here on Blackboard. But a lot of the feedback that you get will be individual to you. I make the comments on your actual writing assignments, on your actual exercises, grammatical, content based, bringing up a technique to use that we use in journalism, right? A journalistic stylistic technique you should be doing. That's all going to be in your assignment. So make sure you go back to your assignment. Just don't take a look at the grade, but click on the actual assignment, go back and see the feedback that I give you within the document. So you will be doing that this week. Take a look at it. Make sure you understand it. If you don't, email me because I can always clear something up. Sometimes I'm grading a lot of these. I'm trying to give this feedback quickly, and I have a state of mind. I might think that you're on the same wavelength that I am, and I didn't do a good enough job communicating it to you, right? Or maybe I should have been more detailed in my explanation of a feedback. So that's saying, if you read some feedback and it's still not clear, don't just leave it alone. Make sure you let me know. Make sure you really understand it, because that is what's going to make you a better writer. And in your writing assignments, I'm looking for that, right? That's what's going to help you improve in the class. So if you just keep ignoring it, it's just going to keep dragging that grade down. Because you're going to keep making that same mistake, and I'm expecting you to improve anytime I give you a piece of feedback on an assignment. And then you should get you're getting into the flow of this now. Read news every day. Start taking a look at how different journalists are writing stories, and that's just again going to be just translate into you being a better writer as your first writing assignment comes, which will be next week. So we're gearing up towards that, and this is helping you get ready. All right, so now circling back here to chapters 4 and 5. This week, which you're mostly focusing on, sources and quotes. So a source is any kind of information that a journalist uses to help complete their story. And you have human sources, and then you have, like documentation. Documents being, it could be data, right? If there's data on, say census, right? How many people are living in a town? Has it increased or decreased? That would be considered a source, an official document. It could be a letter. Someone gets a hold of a letter that was written within a company, and a journalist is writing a story based on that. That was a source, that official document that was within their financial reports, transcripts. All of this is, a part of source. The other source is a human source, and that is an interview. And that's what you will be doing in this class too, is you interview someone and you're getting information from them. And those are human sources. And human sources are very valuable in journalism for a few reasons. One is you like to get that firsthand experience of something. The other piece of it is we use quotes from a human source within our stories. Quotes are something that was said word for word by somebody. It's not paraphrased. You can paraphrase within a story too, but when we're talking about quotes, which are used in stories, those are the word for word statements that somebody made. And what makes quotes valuable in journalism is, the analogy I give you is they're like the spice of a story, right? Basically, in your journalistic style of writing, you have your almost like a formula. You've got your lead, which you started to learn about, right, from what you've read in these chapters. But your lead, that first sentence that gives a broad overview of what you're about to read. You get the nut graph, which is within a couple paragraphs encapsulates what the story is. And then usually the next step after that is a quote. And a quote is the spice, right? So what we're talking about, the lead and the nut graph and background information, conclusion. If we're thinking of a meal, right, those are the meat and potatoes. That's the bare minimum amount of nutrition that you need to get. The quotes are the spice. Those are those extra special. I'm not a chef, so I don't know why I always use this analogy every semester, but those are the salt and the pepper and the paprika and whatever else that you chefs out there, you cooks out there use, right? The spice is what gives it the flavor. Is what makes it unique, right? It gives it that interesting spice to it, and that's what we use quotes for. Otherwise, it's just the straight information. The quotes help kind of just put a little life to the story. So you're getting human sources. You're getting those interesting. Not only are you getting information to help you write the story, but you're getting those sound bites, which are only sound bites because they're in the written form. But you're getting those one or two interesting lines that somebody said to include in the story to help you make the story just a little bit more powerful, more compelling. So this is what these two chapters are focusing on. What are sources? How do we use them? When is something on the record, off the record? You probably heard that term before, but the chapters are going to really define that for you. And then with this information that we're getting specific to human sources, what makes a quote? How do we use quotes? Why do we use quotes? That's what this chapter is really focusing on. And so if you see how it's just starting to play into the entire mosaic of what you've been learning so far, we're learning story structure. You've learned story structure at least. You're starting to be exposed to what makes something newsworthy. Now that we determine it's newsworthy, how do we put it in a structure that makes sense for a reader? Now that we've got this structure, how do we get the information to actually, fill this in? How do we get sources? How do we get the information to write what we need to write? How do we get the quotes to include, right? And you're starting to see now that we're taking all these pieces and starting to put it together to create a journalistic style piece. Next week, just to give you a little bit of a preview, next week we'll dive a little bit more into these lessons on how the fine tune and start to put this story together. And you're going to start to go out and report on a story and do everything that we've been learning about, put it into actual practice and create your own story, news story. So that's what this is all leading to. All right, so I set the stages for the chapters that you're going to be reading. You've got the new exercise and the new quiz that's coming this week. You know that you should be taking a look at the feedback that I gave you from your last exercise and applying it to all future assignments. You're reading news every day. Again, as a reminder, you've got the assignments for this week here in the assignments folder. You could always go to assignments and find the quiz in here and the exercise in here. And lastly, you go to due dates, and I will click here into February here. Oops, I always do that. February here, and you see when you've got those assignments due, right? Quiz 2 on the 13th, 11:59 p.m. So that's Sunday, basically before Monday starts. And same thing with exercise 2 due. And you'll start to see as this starts to populate here, we get into the routine and the rhythm. You'll always have them here on this Sunday, and you always got the work that week to be completed by that week, except for writing assignments, which you usually have 2 to 3 weeks. So like next week when I give a writing assignment, it will be a few weeks from then, but it still will always be due on that Sunday. So again, I'm just reminding you because take a look, use this tool here, go to the due dates, keep a visualization of when things are due so you're making sure that you're staying on task. Email me if there are questions, concerns with the feedback, questions on the exercise, whatever it may be. I am here and available. But otherwise, keep up the good work. This is the last week, like I said, that's really building the foundation. Next week, we actually start to practice what we are learning, right, and putting it into application. So I'm very excited about that. But until we get to that point, still build on your foundation, and I'll see you all next week.